Hi everybody, and welcome to the introduction of sales, topic 1. Today's topic is really very much the introduction to selling. The first concept we're going to spend a bit of time on is the definition of personal selling. And then with the definition of personal selling goes hand in hand the evolution of the selling concept to what is today called the marketing concept. So let's start at the beginning. What is personal selling? Everybody sells. When you were a baby and you cried, you were selling a message to your mom or your dad. When you got a bit older and you were a teenager and you wanted to sell to a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you went to sell a message about how you wanted to go to the matric farewell or how you wanted to do something. You put your best foot forward and you sold that very best message. When you go to a restaurant and you want the best table, you sell that message to the restaurant manager. So we all sell all the time. Selling is not just something that you need to do if you're going to be a salesperson. It's not just something you do because, that's a career you want to take. In any business, in any walk of life, selling stands you in good stead. Are you going to be a lawyer one day? Are you going to be a doctor one day? How much do doctors sell to their patients? They sell themselves. You sell yourself, you're a brand. If you're a strong brand, you come across so much more confidently in all walks of life. You've also got to learn in your career to sell up towards management, to sell across towards your colleagues. So selling is just a wonderful skill you have for the rest of your life. In this course, we're going to learn to sell as a career. We're going to learn sales skills, etc. Another thing we often discuss is selling. Is it something you're born with? People often say to selling is, oh, you've got the gift of the gab. That person is just a born salesman. I don't agree with that. I think that selling is something that you can learn, and selling is, for me, all about listening. We as salespeople often overtalk, and we often talk ourselves out of a sale. And to learn to listen is probably the biggest skill you can have as a salesperson. So sometimes the salesperson who is the quiet one, not the extrovert, not the loudmouth, that is very often the best salesman, the one who quietly sits and listens to what his customer really wants and then comes with a good solution. That is often the best salesperson. So it is really something you can learn. Selling is about talking, and it's about non-verbal communication. We're going to touch on this quite a bit. Selling is about listening. We talk often and we say, oh, salespeople have got the gift of the gab. And we say, salespeople are those that, they're born salespeople. Salespeople listen. That's the hard bit, because salespeople like to talk a lot, but salespeople have to listen and they have to read non-verbal communication. Sales happens between a customer and a salesperson. That's why it's called personal selling. There has to be a customer, there has to be a salesperson. When you're studying marketing, you look at marketing, and advertising has its own aims, and public relations has its own aims, etc. Selling, you can't sell something if they don't understand. So you have to inform. You're not putting it in front of him and you're just saying, take it. You have to inform. And you sell benefits. Benefits, benefits, benefits. Let me just put that to you right up front at the beginning of this course. I want to use a little example. I drive a car, okay? I can drive a car, doesn't make me a mechanic. It doesn't make me a racing driver. Okay, what is the benefit of me driving a car? It can get me from A to B. It can help me to fetch my children from school. That is the benefit of driving a car. What is the feature of having a car? The feature of my car is that it has an aircon. It has ABS brakes. The benefit of the ABS brakes is that I can slam on the brakes quickly and I don't die. What is the benefit of the aircon? Is that I'm not going to be hot in summer. And when I see a client, I come across as lovely and presentable. So people buy benefits. We're going to be looking in a lot of depth today at philosophies. We call them approaches. There's an approach called the production approach. There's an approach called the sales approach. And we have moved beyond the production and the sales approach to what we call today the marketing approach. So during the production era, that was in the 1920s, if you can think back to when they started making motor cars, Henry Ford was the first person to make motor cars. The consumer had no power. They had no choice. You wanted a car, you bought a Ford. Henry Ford made cars. He had the power. He developed motor cars. And he had a very famous saying. He said, you can have it in any color as long as it's black. So there was a long queue of people who wanted cars, and you bought your little Model T Ford and it was in black. And that was what was called the production era. The might was with the producer. They produced it the way they wanted. If you wanted to buy it, you bought it the way they had it. It's called the production era. The production era evolved to the industrial time and became a very sales-driven era. Now, the books will teach you that the Industrial Revolution brought about the sales era because the Industrial Revolution brought about factories so they could produce things a lot cheaper. The factories helped them to produce goods and cheaper and in more volumes, and therefore they could sell them a lot cheaper. That was then a sales era or sales-driven era, where the focus was on producing goods cheaply and selling it. I can sell it, I can produce it, it's cheap, and I can sell it any which way. I'll advertise it, I'll discount it, I'll sell it to you. It's called a sales era. Don't for 1 minute think it doesn't happen anymore. It happens very much today. It happens very often in the agricultural industry. I work in the wine industry, and historically some wine farms have got crops or vineyards of what was planted years and years ago. So their grandfathers planted that particular variety or grape type, and therefore they make that grape type today. Never mind if that is what the market wants. That wine is made, that grape type is made, and that is then what is called a sales-driven philosophy. So we make what we make because that's what we make. We don't make what the market wants or the market needs. Let's go to today's consumer. We talk Generation X, we talk millennial, we talk society, we talk social media. People have the might. The consumer have the might. They know what they want. You want to buy something, you research it. You compare. I want to buy a TV. I go on the internet. I know exactly where my TV is going to be the cheapest. I know exactly what model. Do you call it a model? I know exactly what I want to buy. I want a smart TV. It must give me this. It must give me that. It must give me that. So it's what I need. Therefore, the producer has to produce what I need. Does that make sense? So selling is about what the customer needs. So let's go back. There was the production-driven era, which was Henry Ford produced what he knew to produce because he had the knowledge, and the consumer had to take it or leave it. Then we had the sales-driven era, where they could produce something cheaply, and therefore they produced lots of it. They found ways to discount it, advertise it, almost trick people into buying it. Then we move on to what is called the marketing philosophy or the marketing orientation that is driven by customer needs. So we as salespeople, when we go back to the philosophy of the personal selling definition, we want to satisfy what is called the marketing orientation. We want to drive personal selling by the customer needs. Okay, there's another concept that I think is worth discussing in a bit of detail. There's something called the golden rule of selling, and it's referred to a lot in textbooks. Okay, there's certain buzzwords in the golden rule of selling, and one of it is unselfishly treating others as you would like to be treated. Do you sell that way? Do you unselfishly treat the way as you would like to be treated? Think about it when you sell. If a client contacts you after hours, Are you angry? Remember one thing, there's one customer that you can lose. Which customer are you allowed to lose? The one that's unethical or immoral, okay? So be unselfish by all means, but an unethical or an immoral or an illegal customer, then you're not unselfish, okay? Personal selling is very flexible. You get different personalities, different types of salespeople. It has a lot of research capabilities. So the salespeople can give the company a lot of information at all levels, okay? The strongest point is it builds relationships. And the salesperson can tailor make the communication. The disadvantages, these two very distinct disadvantages. It's expensive. So personal selling is expensive. Think about it. You're a rep. It's a car, it's allowances, it's petrol, it's your medical aid, all those things. And it opens itself to bad ethics, bribery, all sorts of things. So you've got to weigh up, the company weighs up the advantages and disadvantages and decides which way to go. There's something else that we need to discuss, and I love this topic, so I can talk on this for hours and I must catch myself, but it's the impact of selling on the economy. Have you ever thought of that order that the waiter takes for the cup of coffee in the coffee shop, the impact that that cup of coffee has on the economy? So you go into a coffee shop and you order a cup of coffee. What compound effect does that have? So order the cup of coffee, okay? How many jobs has that sale created, okay? From the waiter to the cleaner to the delivery truck to the farmer. So selling has a huge impact on the economy. And again, we can joke about it, but if somebody didn't sell it, somebody wouldn't have to produce it. It goes hand in hand. That's the end of topic 1. See you in topic 2.